So I see the video of Sauce Walker, and one of the island boys. I think they was in Texas somewhere, in Houston at Johnny Dang at the jewelry spot. And one of the island boys talking crazy with his big ass security to Sauce, man. Sauce and that motherfucker, man, treating his ass. Treating the fuck out of him. So he'll beat the fuck out of him. This nigga talking about, you know, how folks is on a millionaire. He talking about he a millionaire. Folks treating his ass with my jewelry real. And I smack the fuck. Hey, bro. Folks say some crazy shit, man. Folks tell me y'all kiss and y'all do all. Y'all can't play no gangster shit after y'all do the shit that y'all do, man. How you gonna do some gangster shit when you and your blood twin brothers doing homosexual content?
The second a chain has to prove it is real, the flex is already bleeding. So why are people suddenly acting like one of rap's most iconic jewelers allegedly sold a dream to some of the hardest names tied to Chicago? Why are old tester clips, old warnings, and old rivalries all getting dragged back into the light at the exact same time? And why is King Yella's name now being pushed into this story like the man who allegedly said what everybody else was too nervous to say out loud? Because this is not just a jewelry story anymore. This is an ego story, a clout story, a legacy story. And if the internet is even halfway right about what started circulating around Johnny Dang, then the issue is not whether one pendant passed or failed. The issue is whether an entire image economy got built on shine that people allegedly never questioned hard enough. Now the facts are real enough to make this uncomfortable. Johnny Dang really is one of hip-hop's most famous jewelers. Chief Keef really was dragged into authenticity chatter. Lil Durk really did post public warnings about fake or overpriced jewelry from major jewelers. And online videos really did start connecting those dots in a way that made O-Block's image part of the conversation. And trust me, you cannot leave right now, because the biggest twist in this whole story is not who got accused. It is who allegedly stayed quiet, who allegedly knew better, and why one test may have exposed way more than one chain. Johnny Dang's name did not become legendary by accident. According to the March 21, 2026 Rap Dynasty breakdown that reignited this whole conversation, he was born in 1973, moved to Houston in 1996, started repairing watches and jewelry in a flea market, opened TV Jewelry in 1998, and then changed his life by linking up with Paul Wall in 2002. From there, the image took off so hard it became part of rap folklore. Rappers shouted him out in songs. Artists wore his work in videos. His grills became a status symbol. His shop turned into a pilgrimage site for celebrities trying to look richer than they already were. That kind of reputation does not just make money. It creates faith. And that faith is exactly why the rumor hit like a bomb. Because once people online started saying Johnny Dang's jewelry was allegedly not always what customers thought they were buying, fans did not hear that as technical jewelry talk. They heard it as blasphemy. They heard it as an attack on one of rap's most trusted luxury gatekeepers. That is what made the story viral. Not just the accusation, but the target. But here is where it gets interesting. The story was never clean enough to dismiss as a random troll wave, because the accusations did not only come from faceless pages. Rap Dynasty's video says a former employee, Jose Mendez, also known as Plug Geo, went on camera in 2021 and claimed Johnny Dang was selling fake diamonds. That alone does not make it true, but it immediately changes how the public processes the rumor. If a stranger says a jeweler is foul, people scroll. If an alleged former insider says it, people pause. They replay. They zoom in. They start treating every old chain photo like evidence. And the timing could not have been uglier, because rap culture had already become obsessed with real versus fake content. Diamond testers, freeze tests, close-up reels, TikTok breakdowns, side-by-side comparisons. Everybody suddenly wanted to play gemologist in the comments. And once that energy entered a story involving a jeweler whose brand was built on celebrity trust, the damage was never going to stay small. Now bring Chicago into it, and the stakes get even higher. Because O-Block is not just a location in rap discourse. It is a brand within the brand. Public culture reporting ties Parkway Gardens, known as O-Block, to drill music's rise and to names like Lil Durk, King Von, Fredo Santana, Prince Dre, Boss Top, and Muwop. Whether every fan gets every affiliation perfectly right does not even matter at this point. The public imagination already turned O-Block into a symbol of authenticity, danger, survival, and status. So when the internet starts muttering that jewelry worn around that image might allegedly not be what it seemed, people do not hear a small scandal. They hear a challenge to the visual mythology itself. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. Jewelry in rap is not about decoration. It is about proof. Proof you escaped. Proof you got paid. Proof you turned pain into money, lyrics into leverage, enemies into spectators. That is why any accusation around fake or suspect stones feels so personal. It does not just question what somebody wore. It questions what the audience believed. That is why the Chief Keef angle mattered so much. According to the same March 2026 video, Sosa reportedly went to K Jewelers in California with a Johnny Dang pendant and diamond watch to test them publicly after online doubt grew around the pieces. The reported result was green, and that was used to argue the jewelry was real. But look at what the moment really did. It made the test itself the headline. The fact that Chief Keef allegedly felt the need to test a piece in public told the audience something had already broken. Even a passing score could not erase the perception that the rumor had gained enough power to force a defense. And in rap, once you have to defend the flex has already lost part of its magic. Now throw King Yella's name into that fire. I want to be very clear here. The broad fake across O-Block framing is an online allegation, not an established fact. But videos, commentary channels, and internet chatter have pushed King Yella into the role of the truth-teller who allegedly said out loud what others were only hinting at. That is why this title works so hard on the algorithm. It gives viewers a villain, a whistleblower, and a sacred cow all at once. Stay right here because it gets worse. Because once a rival voice is positioned as the one exposing a revered jeweler and a mythologized rap orbit, the audience starts connecting dots whether the dots belong together or not. Old videos get re-uploaded. Old warnings get recirculated. Old posts get reinterpreted. Every chain from every era suddenly looks suspicious to somebody. The conversation stops being "did this specific piece pass?" and turns into "how deep does this go?" And then Lil Durk's old warnings started looking different. According to Rap Dynasty's transcript, Durk posted on Instagram telling people to stop buying jewelry without knowing what they were doing, saying some of it was fake and some overpriced, and warning that the truth would eventually come out. In another post cited there, he reportedly said people should stop blaming rappers and athletes and start blaming the jewelers selling bogus pieces. He did not name Johnny Dang directly in those posts, but on the internet, naming is optional. All it takes is timing, prior rumors, and an audience hungry for a target. That is when the conversation went from messy to dangerous. Because now you allegedly had 3 layers moving at once. A former insider making accusations. A major rapper publicly warning about fake or overpriced jewelry from big jewelers. And a rival narrative online, tied in part to King Yella's name, pushing the idea that O-Block's shine might not have been as untouchable as it looked. At that point, fans no longer saw isolated events. They started seeing a pattern. And once people think they see a pattern, they start treating coincidence like conspiracy. But here is where it gets interesting. The public O-Block names most often tied to this conversation were never all in the same exact lane, and that actually made the rumor more powerful, not less. King Von, because he turned O-Block into album title mythology. Lil Durk, because his warnings carried weight and his name is too big to ignore. Chief Keef, because the tester story gave the internet a visual anchor. Fredo Santana, because his legacy still sits inside that wider Chicago conversation. Prince Dre, Boss Top, and Muwop, because they remain public symbols of the block's rap identity in the social media age. The audience did the rest, expanding the frame until O-Block meant almost every face they mentally associate with that image. And that is how one jeweler rumor allegedly turned into a culture referendum. Because Welcome to O-Block was not just a project title. King Von's debut studio album dropped on October 30th, 2020, with features from Lil Durk, Polo G, Dreezy, Moneybagg Yo, Fivio Foreign, and Prince Dre, and it helps solidify O-Block as both a physical place and a commercial symbol. Once a place becomes a symbol, every piece of that symbol matters. The chains matter. The videos matter. The collaborators matter. The perception matters. And that is when the rumor stopped being about one jeweler and started looking like a coordinated pressure campaign aimed at the image itself. And that is when the rumor stopped being about one jeweler and started looking like a coordinated pressure campaign aimed at the image itself. And if that sounds dramatic, look at how the pieces allegedly lined up. You had a former employee accusing the jeweler. You had online tester culture turning every stone into public evidence. You had Dirk's warnings echoing over the whole conversation. You had Chief Keef's reported public test becoming a symbol of damaged trust. And floating over it all was this algorithm-perfect framing that King Yella had allegedly exposed everything, which turned the story from jewelry discourse into street politics content. That is not a coincidence. That is why viewers clicked. Now here is the twist. Johnny Dang did not answer this like a man cornered. He answered like a man protecting a dynasty. Rap Dynasty's March 2026 video says Johnny Dang's side acknowledged that Plug Geo had worked for him and framed him as someone who left abruptly around the time the accusation surfaced. That response did two things at once. It defended the brand, and it attacked the motive. It quietly told the public, this is not a neutral witness. This is somebody with a reason to hurt us. In scandal warfare, that is a very strategic move, because if you cannot erase the allegation, you try to weaken the accuser. But the optics refuse to calm down, because Plug Geo did not vanish after speaking. According to the same video, he kept building his own jewelry lane and later became associated with Sauce Walka's $1 million grill rollout. That transformed the conflict from a simple accusation into something more layered. Now it allegedly looked like a split inside the jewelry ecosystem itself. Not just a whistleblower talking, but a competitor rising with a built-in controversy narrative. That is exactly the kind of thing YouTube feeds love, because it turns one accusation into a multi-character war. And then Sauce Walka poured gasoline on it. In the transcript referenced by Rap Dynasty, Sauce reportedly said he was taking out Johnny Dang's pieces and putting in Plug Joe's, which was perceived online as a very public downgrade of Johnny Dang's work. Whether Sauce meant it as pure promo, genuine disappointment, or a combination of both, the result was the same. The audience felt like the walls were moving. If a rapper with status switches camps publicly, fans instantly ask what he knows that they do not. Johnny Dang's answer was cold. According to that same breakdown, he said, "You don't need to put my name in there, but if you mention my name, put some respect on my name." That quote mattered because it did not sound panicked. It sounded practiced, controlled, heavy, like a man who had seen this type of public challenge before and believed his name would outlive the noise. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. Sometimes surviving a scandal makes a luxury brand look stronger than if the scandal had never happened. Because once accusations hit and the business still stands, loyalists treat survival itself as proof. They do not need every rumor disproven. They just need the throne to stay occupied. Still, the O-Block angle kept mutating. Because fans were no longer just asking whether one jeweler had an issue. They were now rereading the entire flex economy tied to Chicago rap. King Von's visuals. Chief Keef's pieces. Dirk's warnings. The way chains were shown off in interviews, videos, and Instagram stories. Prince Dre's closeness to Von's era. Boss Top's continuing drill identity. Muwop's public friendship with Von and their Nobody Move connection, which Blue specifically notes has more than 6 million YouTube views. Once those names sit inside one rumor cloud, the audience no longer separates direct evidence from symbolic association. The whole world starts looking implicated. But here is where it gets interesting. The facts never fully supported the wildest version of the story, and that may be exactly why the story kept growing. Think about it. If someone had dropped a neat legal case with clear receipts and a final ruling, the audience would have debated it for a week and moved on. But uncertainty is better for content than certainty. Rumor lasts longer than resolution. That is why phrases like allegedly fake, sources claim, and word on the street perform so well online. They let viewers feel like investigators instead of consumers. And in that environment, King Yella's role becomes more powerful whether or not he physically originated every claim being pinned to him. He becomes the symbol of the uncomfortable question. The man who, in the internet's version of the story, allegedly broke the unspoken rule and dared people to look at the shine differently. That is why this title has so much heat. It promises rebellion, not just information. Stay right here because it gets worse. Because another layer in this saga is not just fake versus real. It is natural versus lab-grown versus moissanite versus markup. Rap Dynasty's transcript says Johnny Dang openly discussed how difficult it can be for a regular person to tell the difference between lab-grown and natural diamonds with a naked eye. That point is important. Because once the public learns that looks real and is exactly what you thought you paid for are not always the same thing, the whole culture starts questioning the meaning of authenticity. And that is the real nightmare for a jeweler. Not one failed stone. Not one angry client. But a public mood shift where buyers start thinking, even if it passed a test, did I really get what I thought I bought? That kind of doubt is poisonous because it does not need a courtroom to spread. It only needs one viral clip and an audience that already wants to believe the rich got embarrassed. Then there is the money. Rap Dynasty's video also references an older 2014 promotional deal tied to NBA All-Star activity, where Johnny Dang reportedly had to refund close to $200,000 after something went wrong. The same source notes he downplayed it and said his business kept moving. To be fair, that refund was not presented as proof of fake diamonds. But once a reputation takes a hit, old stories stop being old. They get pulled back into the present and treated like foreshadowing. The audience starts building a case out of unrelated moments simply because the emotional logic feels right. And here's what they allegedly did not want you to find out. Even after all the noise, the business did not collapse. Artists still went to Johnny Dang. His name still carried weight. The video itself points out that names continued coming through that world. And that is the most uncomfortable detail in the whole story because it reframes everything. If the accusations were loud and the clients still came, then this was never just about proof. It was about power, brand gravity, cultural loyalty, the ability of a legendary name to keep attracting belief even while being attacked. Now think about what that means for O-Block's image. If people publicly associated with that world kept shining, kept moving, kept posting, kept performing, then maybe the rumor did not expose weakness at all. Maybe it exposed how impossible it is to separate image from audience projection. Fans see what they want to see. Rivals see what they want to destroy. Commentary channels see what performs. And everybody keeps calling it truth. Now here is the twist. The more the audience focused on whether the stones were real, the less they focused on the bigger humiliation built into the story. The humiliation was not that a chain might allegedly be fake. The humiliation was that status itself might have become a subscription model. That you do not buy jewelry in rap only for material value. You buy access to a look, a name, a cosign, a mythology. And once that possibility sinks in, the whole scandal becomes less about gemology and more about performance. Which means the story was never really about one chain. It was about whether the culture got addicted to the label on the box. And if that is true, then the person the internet cast as the villain might not be the only one who profited from the illusion, because by the time this rumor cycle hit full speed, the audience itself had already become part of the machine, which is why the next revelation changes everything you thought part one was even about. Because this was never simply a scandal about whether Johnny Dang allegedly sold bad stones to rappers tied to O-Block. It was a scandal about how rap culture manufactures authority. Who gets believed? Who gets mocked? Who gets protected? And who gets turned into the designated truth teller the second the audience wants a rebellion narrative? That is why King Yella's name matters here, even beyond the literal specifics of any one claim. In the algorithm version of the story, he becomes the outsider voice willing to say the sacred thing out loud. He allegedly does not care about the jeweler's legacy. He allegedly does not care about whose feelings get hurt. He allegedly just throws the grenade and watches the room react. And whether you think that makes him brave, bitter, strategic, or all three, it is exactly the kind of energy that keeps a controversy alive. But here is where it gets interesting. Once you view the story through that lens, the cast changes shape. Johnny Dang stops being just a jeweler and becomes the empire under attack. O-Block stops being just a neighborhood and becomes the symbol whose shine is being challenged. Chief Keef stops being just a customer and becomes the visual proof point viewers keep replaying. Lil Durk stops being just a rapper with a warning post and becomes the man whose words allegedly helped validate broader suspicion. And King Von, even in death, remains central because his Welcome to O-Block era fused the block's identity with luxury imagery, drill storytelling, and mass-market myth. And this is the part that nobody is talking about. The reason viewers get emotional about jewelry scandals is because they know rap is partly built on aspiration theater. Everybody knows the camera exaggerates. Everybody knows branding matters. Everybody knows artists buy into image ecosystems. But the audience still wants to believe the symbols are solid. They want the chain to be heavy, the stones to be right, the receipt to be clean, the jeweler to be sacred. Once that fantasy cracks, even a little, the reaction is not just curiosity. It is betrayal. That is why public names tied to O-Block keep getting pulled into the emotional blast radius, even when the evidence is uneven. King Von because his name carries the block commercially. Lil Durk because his warnings sound prophetic after the fact. Chief Keef because the alleged K Jewelers testing moment became a legend of its own. Fredo Santana because his memory still lives inside that wider Chicago drill lineage. Prince Dre, Boss Top, and Muwop because their public identities keep them linked to the block's image in viewers' minds. The audience turns association into implication, and implication into storyline. Stay right here because it gets worse. Because once a story reaches this stage, actual proof almost stops mattering. What matters is replay value, debate value, reaction value. The title itself becomes part of the event. King Yella exposes everything is not just a description. It is a threat. It tells the viewer that somebody brave or reckless allegedly pulled a curtain back, then claims Johnny Dang's jewelry was fake across O-Block, escalates it from one product complaint into a neighborhood-wide legacy hit. That kind of framing is not designed to inform. It is designed to trigger emotional participation. Everybody has to pick a side. And when everybody picks a side, the comment section becomes the courtroom. One side says Johnny Dang is too legendary, too watched, too tested, too deeply embedded in rap's luxury history to be doing anything that reckless on the scale people imply. They point to surviving business, continuing clients, public testing moments, and the fact that no neat final proof package ever landed that shut the game down. The other side says that exact legendary status is what could have protected a system from hard scrutiny for too long. They point to the former employee claims, the social media tester culture, the sauce Waka shift, and Durk's warnings as pieces of a bigger pattern. Now here is the twist. Both sides may be arguing about the wrong thing. Because the most devastating possibility in this whole story is not necessarily that everybody got sold outright fake jewelry. It is that the culture got so addicted to the appearance of validation that it stopped asking precise questions. Did the buyer know the exact grade? Did he know whether the stones were natural or lab-grown? Did he understand the markup? Did he care more about resale reality or about posting the jeweler's name? Was the flex about objective value or about affiliation? Once you ask those questions, the scandal becomes much bigger and much darker than fake or real. It becomes about how easily image can override inquiry. And here is what they allegedly did not want you to find out. The audience helped build this machine. Fans reward shine before they reward paperwork. Viewers celebrate the box, the bag, the jeweler's name, the celebrity association, the dramatic unwrapping, the sparkling close-up. They do not reward nuance. They do not reward invoice literacy. They do not reward sober comparison shopping. Then later, when the rumor cycle comes back around, everybody acts shocked that perception may have outrun verification. But perception is what the whole ecosystem was feeding from the beginning. That is why this story keeps surviving every attempt to settle it. Because it is not one scandal. It is 3 scandals stacked on top of each other. The jeweler scandal, the rapper image scandal, and the audience belief scandal. Take one away, the other 2 still stand. So where does that leave King Yella in all this? In the internet mythology of the moment, he allegedly plays the role of the disruptor, the man who says the embarrassing part out loud and forces fans to react. That does not mean every claim attached to his name is proven. It means the story needed a face willing to embody rebellion, and the algorithm gave him that role. Once that happened, the title almost wrote itself. And where does that leave Johnny Dang? Still standing, which may be the wildest part of all. Because if a jeweler survives accusations, survives former employee drama, survives social media testing culture, survives rival camp noise, and still keeps his name in the conversation, then the brand has become bigger than a normal business. It has become an institution. And where does that leave O-Block? In a strange place. More mythologized than ever, but also more vulnerable to symbolic attacks. Because once your image becomes iconic, people do not need to hit your music to hit your aura. They hit your jewelry. They hit your aesthetics. They hit your flex. They hit the proof of success layer that audiences are trained to obsess over. So now the real question is not whether one old rumor clip resurfaces tomorrow. The real question is what happens if somebody finally puts the receipts, the tests, the names, and the timelines in one place and forces the culture to stop performing certainty. Because if that day comes, the debate will not be about who sparkled the hardest. It will be about who sold the dream, who bought it, and who already knew it was only a dream. So now you are left with the questions nobody in this story seems fully able to answer. If the accusations were so serious, why did the brand keep moving? If the brand kept moving, does that prove the rumors were inflated, or does it prove that celebrity trust is stronger than consumer doubt? And if King Yella really became the face of this exposure narrative online, was he telling an uncomfortable truth, or was he simply smart enough to weaponize a rumor the culture was already half ready to believe? And there is one more question hanging over all of this that people are going to argue about for days. If Chief Keef's reported test came back green, if Dirk's warnings stayed broad, and if Johnny Dang's business survived the smoke, then what exactly was the public reacting to so intensely? Evidence or embarrassment? That is why your like on this video actually matters here. Not for vanity, not for numbers, but because stories like this disappear under cleaner headlines unless viewers push them back into the conversation. If you think hip-hop culture needs harder questions asked about image, loyalty, and what people are really paying for, then this is the kind of story that needs traction. Because once the timeline moves on, the easiest thing in the world is for everybody to act like they were never confused in the first place. Now I want you in the comments answering one thing, and do not give me the easy answer. If you were a rapper with a legendary jeweler attached to your image, would you publicly test your jewelry and risk the embarrassment, or would you protect the relationship and never let the audience see your doubt? Because the next person who speaks on this might not be exposing the jeweler. They might be exposing the whole game.